Welcome in to the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I am your host, Mitch Kaiser, coming to you live on a Sunday today. Apologies for this is a makeup episode for what was supposed to be my national championship preview on Friday that I thought was successfully uploaded until I realized the file did not save. The entire hour-long recording I did with my guest, TJ Wengert from lead draft analyst from 32 Beat Writers. We lost the file, so apologies on that. Very sorry about that. Some technical difficulties. I thought the file was uploaded Friday. We did a whole hour-long preview, and we also talked some draft prospect guys, some Senior Bowl guys. So very sorry to TJ on that, and apologize to my audience for not getting that episode available. But I did write a Substack on the game, as well as a Carson Beck feature story that on my Substack that I really thought was a great piece I wrote. So if you guys want to check that out, I'll link both those articles here below on my Substack, so you can kind of read through our national championship preview. I'll get TJ back on next week. We'll kind of recap the championship game, and we'll have him on next week to talk Senior Bowl, because I don't want to take anything away from his conversation, because he was tremendous and gave so much information for you guys. So I definitely want to get him back on, and don't want to miss out on and take anything away from what he said. TJ did a fantastic job previewing this game. So I will briefly kind of run through our notes that we made. The transcript was able to be saved. I was able to save that. So I'll kind of briefly give you the spark notes of my national championship preview for tomorrow, for the game tomorrow night between the Indiana Hoosiers and the Miami Hurricanes. Number 1, Indiana versus number 10, a matchup that everybody, expected at the beginning of the season. I'm sure if you called this back in August, people would have called you crazy. So, yeah, here we are. Two teams built on physicality, two teams built on veteran quarterbacks, older teams, older rosters as well. Both are extremely physical, veteran-led. Both can win ugly, and both can suffocate you at the line of scrimmage. So that's kind of the main storyline here, is the two physical teams and the two proven paths. Obviously, Indiana is the only undefeated team left, trying to be the first team to go 16-0 in college football history and win their first national championship. Miami coming in, they have 2 losses, obviously, and kind of were the last team to get in, if you will, as the 10 seed, and then has upset all three opponents. So on their way to the championship game, beating A&M, Ohio State, and last week Ole Miss. And then Indiana's path has been a little more surgical, dominating Alabama 38-3, and then cruising past Oregon 56-22. They have just showed that they are on another level than any other team who has been on the same field with them this season. Quick note, I thought this was interesting. These are the only 2 teams that have beaten Ohio State this season. I just thought that was an interesting fact, because people talk about the physicality and like the line of scrimmage with Ohio State. And I honestly think these were the only 2 teams that could beat them in the whole tournament. I think OSU would probably finish 3rd if we were going for a consolation prize in this. That's how good I do think the Buckeyes still are. And that shows what we think of Miami and Indiana for getting here. So we'll quickly run through Indiana. Their secret sauce is no negative plays. They don't really overwhelm you with anything or like flash or anything. They're just kind of disciplined. They block, they tackle, and they stay on schedule, and they don't make mistakes. Mendoza does not turn the ball over. He's the embodiment of that philosophy. His ball placement is elite. His accuracy is elite. Decision making is elite. 3rd and long, you name it. He's always going to make the right decision and avoids disasters. And it's just, your window is so razor thin against this Indiana team that you almost have to force a turnover or 2 to even have a chance in the game at all, which Miami's going to have to do that. Obviously, they had a pick 6 in the Ohio State game, which completely, flipped the momentum of that one. And the only time Mendoza's thrown a pick 6, or the one pick 6 he threw against Oregon, he bounced right back after in the first Oregon game, not in the game last week. But that's the recipe for success for Indiana is, no negative plays, stay ahead of the chains, don't change what you've been doing, and you should be fine. That's worked for you all season long. Don't change your philosophy and go into this game, and you're the better team, and that's how you do it. Miami wins a little differently. They use power and pass rush, and they also use momentum, and they might need to use the crowd in this too. The crowd may have to play a factor for the Hurricanes to pull off this upset. Funny that the game is played in their home stadium, the Hard Rock Stadium down in Miami, Florida. So I thought that was neat. I forget how long it's been. I want to say since like 1991 that they could be the first team to win a championship in their home stadium. So thought that was interesting. They're going to need every advantage they can get. So if there is any home crowd playing a factor behind the Miami Hurricanes, they're going to need that. So like I said, you need every edge you can get against this Indiana team because they are a juggernaut. Signetti he's got him playing like a juggernaut. So they got to force Indiana in obvious passing situations, and that can kind of be their only way to change the game with Bain and Mesidor just wrecking havoc. So it's the best pass rushing grade in the country versus the best blocking grade in the country on Indiana's offensive line. That is with Carter Smith and Pat Coogan, two NFL studs at the next level. Offensively, Miami leans on displacement, which is their physical run game, heavy play action, and taking some vertical shots off early down success. So when Carson Beck is comfortable, the offense can hum. And he has shown time and time again that he is not scared of the moment, and he's not going to shy away from the moment. Beck led the legacy drive against Ole Miss last week when you thought they were down and out. People continue to doubt Beck, going all the way back to Georgia, and he just keeps proving people wrong. So I said on my last show that he's somewhat unkillable on the football field lately, and every time you think Miami was down and out and like a 3rd and long, he just delivered the accurate ball, made the right throw, picked it up with his legs, ran in the touchdown. So yeah, Beck is going to need to have his best game of the playoffs, so that's no secret. We're going to have to get 2023 Carson Beck in this game, and that was pre-shoulder injury where he played his best season of football at Georgia back in 2023, where they were 3 points away from beating Alabama and finishing the regular season 13-0 undefeated, and they, missed out on the playoffs barely. So we're going to need Georgia 2023 back in this one. He's going to have a legacy game in order to pull off this upset, but this guy's plenty capable of doing that. The media that the heat this guy takes from the media is something else to me when he's 37-5 as a career starter. So if he were to pull off this upset and add a national championship to his belt, I mean, that's quite a impressive college career for Carson Beck, who is a player who's kind of taken up the mantle as villain. That's kind of the QB battle I've used. The analogy I've used for covering this game is you got one who's like the hero in Fernando Mendoza versus one who's like the villain in Carson Beck in the eyes of college football fans. I love when sports have villains. I think they're better because of characters like that, characters like Beck and Mendoza, each leading their respective programs. But if Miami were to pull this off, it might become a race to 20 points, and that might be their only way to do it. They're going to need the crowd to play a factor, and the final score could look something like 20-17 if Miami were to pull it off. Again, we'll get into my final prediction, my pick, but those are my thoughts on that. So the quarterback battle I do think is really interesting. You've got the protagonist here in Mendoza, as I call him, the Heisman Trophy winner, hyper efficient, calm, composed, surgical, thrives after adversity, and wins without drama. His best games of the season came against Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon, which is the toughest stretch any quarterback could face. So he locked in QB1. He locked in the number 1 pick to the Raiders. He's more, NFL comp ranges. TJ actually comped him to Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins on the show. So he's NFL ready, professional, and ready to compete from day one in the NFL. So, and then you have our antagonist in this instance, Carson Beck, who's 37-5 as a starter, I mentioned, with elite big game experience. The arm strength might not be there post-surgery shoulder injury. However, he is still a proven winner who gets it done underneath and can still shred you with his poise and his football IQ. So I don't think Beck is we're talking. This is a guy who was once QB1 coming into the 2024 college football season, where you had some number one overall pick hype with him. I don't think we'll see that. I think he's more of like probably a day 3, 4th round pick at this point. But this is a guy who is steady in big moments, and is not gonna collapse in a high pressure crucial moment. So we've seen it time and time again. And if he were to pull this off, the upset, like I said, you'd be adding Carson Beck to some very high up conversations in terms of college NCAA quarterbacks and all-time winning records. So just look at the numbers. I'm telling you, look at the numbers. So 16-3 in ranked matchups with a QBR that is second all-time to only Baker Mayfield in those matchups. Just thought I'd point that out. That's something Chris Fowler said on ESPN. So I want to credit Chris Fowler for that stat. But, okay. Last notes from TJ here. I want to talk about I want to list out a couple of draft prospects that TJ mentioned on here to watch beyond quarterback. So we know the obvious guys in this game, obviously Mendoza and Beck, and then Rueben, Bain, and Mesidor are the 2 defensive ends for Miami. They're both going to be first-round picks. Not a doubt in my mind. Bain is probably a top 5 pick if you really boil it down. So on the Miami side, you've got Keontae Scott, who is a nickel corner, very twitchy, physical, and a super modern NFL defender. Will translate great to the league. He had the pick 6 against Ohio State, and he also stared down their sidelines when he was running in for a touchdown. So thought that was kind of badass. You get some points for that for sure. Also on Miami, Ahmad Moten, interior defensive line, D tackle, interior disruptor, top 100 talent in the eyes of TJ Wengert. So, and then lastly on Miami, Mark Fletcher, the running back. This guy's stock keeps just getting higher and higher every game he plays. I mean, he is just bulldozing dudes left and right out there. So declaring might make sense for him, as his stock may never be higher after this playoff run. So we'll see how he does against Indiana tomorrow night. But if Fletcher has a big game, you could see him enter the draft. Then on Indiana's side, couple draft prospects for them. Starting on the O-line, Carter Smith, the left tackle for Indiana, who is one of the highest graded offensive linemen in the country. TJ projects him as more of a guard. He thinks he's more of an interior protector, NFL guard, left guard protection at the next level, more of a tone center in TJ's eyes. And then you got the center, Pat Coogan, who was offensive player of the game against Alabama, well-deserved there. One of the best centers in college football, has been one of the best centers going back to his Notre Dame days. He's actually playing in back-to-back national champions. So, fun fact. Hopefully, he might come away winning this one. Lost against Ohio State last year on Notre Dame, but might come away with a win in this one, which I know Coogan would love to add to his trophy case. So, first down dominance by Pat and a run game anchor at the center position. So, really like Coogan, probably a day 2 guy. D'Angelo Ponce, one of my favorite cornerbacks in the country. This guy had the pick 6 on the first play of the game against Dante Moore, so you might remember that. Nobody ever told this guy how big he is. Like, he is not big. He is small, 5'9", undersized, but fearless. Plays way bigger than his frame. So he's going to be awesome at the next level. Such a tough competitor out there. Keep an eye on Ponce tomorrow night. And then last draft prospect on Indiana is the linebacker Aiden Fisher, who came from James Madison with Kurt Signetti, followed him to Bloomington. So not a tester, but always in the right place as a linebacker, and just a smart player, good tackler out there, so, and a leader on the defense. So, okay, I will give you my pick for this game now. Let's get in. So TJ, real quick, TJ's final prediction for this game was 34-21, Indiana Hoosiers winning. So TJ, again, lead college draft analyst at 32 Beat Writers. We'll get him on next week to talk more draft Senior Bowl prospects. So he had Indiana coming out on top in this one, 34-21 over the Miami Hurricanes. I have also got the Indiana Hoosiers winning this game, winning their first national championship for the university, defeating the Miami Hurricanes 28-17. Led by a solid game by Fernando Mendoza, where he finally rides off into the sunset, getting the full Joe Burrow quarterback honeymoon experience of the Heisman National Championship and the number 1 pick. Indiana Hoosiers win the national championship in this one. And there you go. That's all I've got for you guys in the national championship preview. Thank you for listening. A short episode today. Again, I apologize to TJ and my audience for not having the video recording for this one. I had to record on the fly here, but still wanted to get you some sort of preview. I didn't do it full justice, so I will have TJ come back on next week, and we'll kind of recap the game, and then we'll also talk some Senior Bowl prospects. So appreciate you listening to me, guys, today. Hope you enjoy the NFL playoff games today, and hope you enjoy the national championship tomorrow, and have a great rest of your day.